In the meantime, the companions of the Lord, who reached the temple a little after him, heard of the Lord's transcendental feats and of his being carried away by the Bhattacharya. The pilgrims at the temple were still gossiping about the incident. Such an unusual incident that you have someone who comes, a sannyasi, with great love, he sees Lord Jagannath and immediately falls unconscious. But by chance, one of these pilgrims had met Gopinath Acharya, who was known to Gadadhar Pandit, and from him it was learned that the Lord was lying in an unconscious state at the residence of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, who happened to be the brother-in-law of Gopinath Acharya. All the members of the party were introduced by Gadadhar Pandit to Gopinath Acharya, who took them all to the house of Bhattacharya, where the Lord was lying unconscious in a spiritual trance. All the members then chanted loudly the holy name of the Lord Hari as usual, and the Lord regained his consciousness. After this, Bhattacharya received all the members of the party, including Lord Nityananda Prabhu, and asked them to become his guests of honor. The party, including the Lord, went for a bath in the sea, and the Bhattacharya arranged for their residence and meals at the house of Kashi Mishra. Gopinath Acharya, his brother-in-law, also assisted. There were some friendly talks about the Lord's divinity between the two brothers-in-law, and in this argument, Gopinath Acharya, who knew the Lord before, now tried to establish the Lord as the personality of Godhead, and the Bhattacharya tried to establish him as one of the great devotees. Both of them argued from the angle of vision of authentic Shastras, and not on the strength of sentimental devotees. Not on the strength of sentimental vox populi. Vox populi means the voice of the public. We should keep in mind that it is our duty to understand everything that pertains to Krishna consciousness and otherwise by consulting the scriptures. The scriptural authority can never ever be disregarded. We often talk about listening to Guru Sadhu Shastra. Prabhupada talks about this, that we should listen to Guru Sadhu Shastra. Narottam Das Thakur has stated elsewhere, Sadhu Shastra Guru Vakya Chittete Korya Aikya. We should listen to all three. And Prabhupada explains here, I produced this quote from a lecture on Bhagavatam, where you get the direction Sadhu Shastra Guru Vakya. You get Krishna's direction from saintly persons, from authorized scriptures, Vedic literature. Sadhu Shastra and Guru. Guru means who knows how to follow previous saintly persons, who knows what is written there in the book of knowledge. He is Guru. Sadhu Shastra Guru. And Shastra means that the direction of Krishna. That is called Shastra. Therefore, Krishna said, Ya Shastra vidhim utsidya vartate kamakarata nasasiddhim avapnoti. Therefore, you cannot manufacture scripture. That is not possible. So the idea is that we are dependent on scripture to understand reality. Here's another description. Srila Narottam Das Thakur advises, Sadhu Shastra Guru Vakya Hridaye Kurya Aikya. The meaning of this instruction is that one must consider the instructions of the sadhu, the revealed scriptures, and the spiritual master in order to understand the real purpose of spiritual life. Neither a sadhu, saintly person, or Vaishnava, nor a bona fide spiritual master says anything that is beyond the scope of the sanction of the revealed scriptures. Thus, the statements of the revealed scriptures correspond to those of the bona fide spiritual master and saintly persons. One must therefore act with reference to these three important sources of understanding. So it is very important that under all circumstances we understand everything in terms of the spiritual the teachings of scripture, Vedic scriptures, the teachings of the predecessor acharyas who teach the intention of the Vedic scriptures, and one's own spiritual master, the bona fide Vaishnava spiritual master, whose teachings correspond to the teachings and conclusions of the predecessor liberated acharyas, as well as the teachings of the revealed scriptures, which are non-different from Krishna. Here's another reference. This is presented in The Quest for Enlightenment, chapter 4, section 4, a chapter entitled How to See and Know God. In the scriptures, we hear how one can come to this perfection. Sadhu Shastra Guruvakya Chittete Korya Aikya. Spiritual realization can be perfected by following three parallel lines. Sadhu, saintly persons who are realized souls. Shastra, authoritative Vedic scriptures. And Guru, the spiritual master. In the railway yard, you see two parallel tracks, and if they are in order, the railway carriages go very smoothly to their destination. In Krishna consciousness, there are three parallel lines: association with saintly persons, sadhus, faith in the scripture, shastra, and acceptance of a bona fide spiritual master, Guru. If you place your vehicle on these three parallel lines, it will go directly to Krishna without any doubt. Now, this is something which has to be properly understood. We need all three. We need scripture. We need the previous acharyas who are following scripture. And we need the spiritual master who is following the previous acharyas and scripture. Notice here, there are various possible combinations. Here I have exhausted all the combinations here by listing them out here. One may accept the scripture, one may accept the previous acharyas, and one may accept one's own spiritual master who is teaching in line with the previous acharyas who are teaching in line with Shastra. Or one may accept scripture and the previous acharyas but may not accept the bona fide instructions of a bona fide spiritual master. Or look at this one. One accepts the bona fide instructions of a guru, of a bona fide guru, but one does not accept the instructions of the predecessor acharyas. He has some difference. Or look at this combination. One doesn't accept scripture, does not axiomatically accept the validity of Vedic scripture, but he has no problem with the previous acharyas and his own spiritual master. Or one may accept the spiritual instructions or all instructions from Vedic scripture, but may not accept the previous acharyas and one's own spiritual master. Or one may not accept the Shastra fully. One may not accept one's own spiritual master who teaches properly, fully, but may accept the previous acharyas. Or one may accept only his spiritual master's teachings from scripture, but may not accept the teachings of the previous acharyas and scripture. Or one may reject all three. Now, we are supposed to accept this. When it says that we should accept Guru, Sadhu, Shastra, we should accept Guru and Sadhu and Shastra, not Guru or Sadhu or Shastra. That is what is meant by saying we have to accept all three parallel lines. All three. We have to accept the spiritual master, we have to accept the predecessor acharyas, and we have to accept Shastra. So, notice here that Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya and Gopinath Acharya, they were not speaking on the basis of great ecstatic sentiment. They are speaking on the basis of Shastra. Krishna consciousness has to be founded on solid knowledge of scriptures. That is the very foundation of Bhakti Yoga, without which there can be no proper execution of Bhakti Yoga. The great acharyas such as Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur and others, they repeatedly point out Shruti Smriti Puranadi Pancharatra Vidhim Vina Aikantiki Harer Bhaktir Utpata Yaiva Kalpate, which is a verse from the Brahma Yamala quoted in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, and which Prabhupada translates it as devotional service of the Lord that ignores the authorized Vedic literatures like the Upanishads, Puranas and Narada Pancharatra is simply an unnecessary disturbance in society. It specifically disturbs the Vaishnava society. And we notice that neither Gopinath Acharya nor Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya indulged in such non-scriptural so-called ecstatic discussions which have no basis in scriptures. The incarnations of God are determined by authentic shastras and not by popular votes of foolish fanatics. Because Lord Chaitanya was an incarnation of God, in fact, foolish fanatics have proclaimed so many so-called incarnations of God in this age without referring to authentic scriptures. This became a big problem after Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's descent, specifically in Bengal, where so many people, even today, even educated people, for some reason, they imagine that religion is meant to be a very irrational activity to be engaged in, and therefore, without using their intelligence, they simply accept some useless mortal as an incarnation of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, without even imagining that there has to be scriptural prophecies and evidences. But Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya or Gopinath Acharya did not indulge in such foolish sentimentalism. On the contrary, both of them tried to establish or reject his divinity on the strength of authentic Shastras. Notice that Prabhupada is quite appreciative of such discussions. Prabhupada is not critical of such discussions. Later it was disclosed that Bhattacharya also came from the Navadvip area. He also came from Navadvip Mandal. In fact, he was at a place called Vidyanagar, which we visit during Navadvip Mandal Parikrama. That place is a place of education. According to Gauraganodesha Deepika of Kavi Karnapur, Lord Chaitanya's associate, Gopinath Acharya is actually an incarnation of Lord Brahma, the Lord of the universe. And you also find a statement there that Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was previously Brihaspati in the heavenly planets. So these are very, very exalted personalities who had appeared in Lord Chaitanya's pastimes in order to serve him. And if you go to this wonderful website called navadipmandalparikrama.com, Navadip Mandal comprises of 9 islands. They don't appear to be islands nowadays because of the variation in the flow of the Ganges. But in one of the 9 islands called Ritudvip, there is a place called Vidyanagar. And in Vidyanagar, Vasudeva Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was here. And then later he shifted to Navadvip. Here are deities of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Lord Nityananda Prabhu at Vidyanagar. This is a very, very important place. Bhaktivinoda Thakur has said that one who lives at Vidyanagar and glorifies Lord Chaitanya becomes a fortunate teacher. This is a very, very important place. Anyway, later it was disclosed that Bhattacharya also came from Navadvip area, and it was understood from him that Nilambar Chakravarti, the maternal grandfather of Lord Chaitanya, happened to be a class fellow of the father of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. In that sense, the young sannyasi Lord Chaitanya evoked paternal affection from Bhattacharya. Bhattacharya was the professor of many sannyasis in the order of the Shankaracharya Sampradaya, and he himself also belonged to that cult. Prabhupada often uses this expression, cult, in the sense of, in the Old English usage, to refer to a cultural group. As such, the Bhattacharya desired that the young sannyasi Lord Chaitanya also hear from him about the teachings of Vedanta. When Shankarites talk about Vedanta, they specifically talk about the Vedanta Sutra as it has been commented by Shankaracharya. The commentary of Shankaracharya is known as Shariraka Bhashya. Here you see in Prabhupada's purport to Adilila chapter 7 text 101, Prabhupada quotes Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur as stating, Mayavadi sannyasis accept that the commentary by Sri Shankaracharya known as Shariraka Bhashya gives the real meaning of the Vedanta Sutra. In other words, Mayavadi sannyasis accept the meanings expressed in the explanations of the Vedanta Sutra by Shankaracharya, which are based on monism. Thus they explain the Vedanta Sutra, the Upanishads and all such Vedic literatures in their own impersonal way. The great Mayavadi sannyasi Sadananda Yogindra has written a book known as Vedanta Sar. This is a textbook for students of Advaitavad, Mayavad, in which he writes Vedanto Nama Upanishad Pramanam Tat Upakarini Shariraka Sutra Dinicha. According to Sadananda Yogindra, the Vedanta Sutra and Upanishads as presented by Sri Shankaracharya in his Shariraka Bhashya commentary are the only sources of Vedic evidence. So that is what they mean by Vedanta.